You didn't see it at first. It didn't feel like control. It felt small, insignificant, easy to ignore. And now, when you look back, you see something different. And suddenly, it was never small at all, because nothing seemed serious enough. Nothing felt obvious, just small things, a comment, a correction, a different version of what happened. At the time, it didn't feel important. But now, when you look back, you start to see the pattern. It didn't begin with control. It began with confusion. You were told you were overreacting, that you misunderstood, that you remembered it wrong. And at first, you didn't believe it. You trusted yourself. You felt certain. But the moments kept repeating, small contradictions, subtle denials, slight shifts in meaning, and slowly, certainty became hesitation. You started questioning your reactions, then your memory, then your perception, and at some point, you stopped trusting yourself altogether. That's how it happens, not all at once, but step by step. First, your reactions are challenged. You're too sensitive. You're overthinking. Then your memory's questioned. That's not what happened. I never said that. Then your reality begins to shift. Two versions of events exist, yours and theirs, and you try to reconcile them, trying to be fair, trying to be accurate. But in doing that, you begin adjusting your own perception. Then your confidence starts to change. You hesitate, you soften your words, you question your decisions, you become more careful, more controlled, and over time, that becomes your normal state. There are moments where this becomes visible in hindsight. You remember situations that once felt small, conversations you dismissed, comments you ignored, moments that felt slightly off, but not important enough to question. And now when you look back at them, they feel different, not bigger, but clearer, as if they were part of something you couldn't see at the time. And that's because they were. Each moment alone didn't mean much, but together, they created a pattern that slowly changed how you think, how you feel, how you interpret reality. And the most important part is this: it didn't require you to believe everything immediately. It only required you to doubt yourself slightly, just enough. Because once doubt is introduced, it doesn't need to be forced. It grows quietly, naturally, automatically. You begin filling in the gaps, adjusting your own perception, correcting your own thoughts without realizing you're doing it. And that's why it feels so confusing, because it feels like it came from you, not from them. It feels like your thoughts, your doubts, your hesitation. But those patterns didn't start inside you. They were introduced, repeated, reinforced until they became familiar. And familiarity feels like truth, even when it isn't. Then something deeper happens. You stop needing external correction because you've internalized it. You monitor yourself, you adjust yourself, you limit yourself before anyone else has to. And that's where the system becomes complete, because now it runs on its own. No pressure is needed, no argument is required. The doubt is already there, and that doubt shapes everything. You question your reactions, you question your memory, you question your perception, until eventually you question yourself. And that is the final stage, not confusion, not disagreement, disconnection from your own perception, from your own thoughts, from your own reality. And when that happens, you become easier to influence because you are no longer grounded. You are searching for clarity, for stability, for something that feels real. And if someone else provides that, you begin to rely on it, even if it replaces your own experience. There are also moments where this dependence becomes invisible. You don't notice that you're checking. You don't notice that you're adjusting. You don't notice that you're waiting for cues, because it feels normal, because it feels like the only way to stay stable. But that stability is not yours, it is borrowed. And borrowed stability always comes with a cost, because it requires you to let go of your own perception, piece by piece, until there is very little left to rely on. But here's what matters. None of this happened randomly. It wasn't chaos. It was a process, a gradual shift from certainty to doubt to dependence. And when you see it like that, everything starts to make sense. The confusion, the hesitation, the self-doubt, it wasn't you, it was the pattern, repeated, consistent, and subtle. And that's why it worked, because it never looked like control. It looked like misunderstanding. It looked like communication. It looked like normal interaction, and that made it invisible. But now, it's not invisible anymore. Now you can see it, the pattern, the sequence, the progression, from the first moment of doubt to the loss of self-trust. And once you see the pattern, it becomes harder to stay inside it, because awareness changes everything, not instantly, but fundamentally. You begin noticing things you didn't see before. You begin recognizing moments, patterns, reactions. You begin questioning the right things, not yourself, but the process. And that shift is where everything starts to change, because the system depends on one thing, your doubt. And once that doubt is no longer automatic, the system weakens. It loses its stability, its control, its influence, and slowly you begin to reconnect with your thoughts, with your reactions, with your perception. Not perfectly, but enough to feel grounded again, enough to feel real again. And that is where it begins to break, not through confrontation, not through force, but through awareness. Because once you see it, you can no longer unsee it. And once you understand it, you are no longer inside it in the same way. And that is where everything shifts. Because the moment you recognize the pattern, you stop reacting the same way. Not immediately, not perfectly, but something changes. You pause in different places. You notice things earlier. You question things you didn't question before. And that awareness creates distance, not from reality, from the distortion. You begin to see the difference between what happened and how it was presented to you. You begin to separate your experience from the version you were given. And that separation is small at first, almost unnoticeable, but it grows, because once you see the pattern, you can't fully return to not seeing it. Even if you still hesitate, even if you still doubt, there is now a part of you that notices, and that part becomes stronger over time. It doesn't need to be loud, it just needs to be consistent, because consistency is what rebuilds trust, not external validation, not someone explaining reality to you, but your own repeated recognition of it, moment by moment. And slowly, that connection begins to return, not as certainty, but as stability. And that stability feels different. It doesn't come from proving anything, it comes from noticing and allowing your experience to exist without immediately questioning it. And the moment you see it is the moment the erosion stops.